Hello teacher, I hope you're doing well. Okay, I'm gonna start explaining to you the Ppp lesson planning. So I'm gonna start reading the first information that we can see when we see a lesson planning. So the class and section is Basic 1 and A respectively. The book is Global Book. The date in which the class is going to be given is July 18th, and the Unit 2, the teacher is Joana Yvette Delgado de Hernandez. The lesson that I have chosen is Simple Past Tense, and the practitioner is me, Ariel Ernesto Pleite Valdez. So the objective is, at the end of the class, students will be able to talk in pairs about the things they did at least once at the moment of living their childhood by using simple past. For example, I played soccer on the street. So I'm going to explain to you the dynamic for this explanation. I'm going to read first the information that is at the left side of the lesson planning, which is in this case time and materials. And then I'm going to explain to you the activity, what the activity consists on. So the time for this activity, for the first one, is 10 minutes. The materials, whiteboard in this case, it's just one. So the activity is called schema activation. The purpose of this one is to introduce the students to the topic. So I'm gonna start reading the instructions for you. The students will stay at the middle of the classroom and they will make a circle. They will play the game called I have a letter for, and he or she will say something that characterizes to someone. It can be the color of the clothes or what he or she wants to say. So I'm gonna give you the example using myself. I'm gonna say, I have a letter for the people who are wearing black jeans. So all the people that are wearing black jeans in the circle are going to have to look for another place. And the student who doesn't find a place is going to receive a punishment. So I guess it's clear until here. So I'm gonna read the other step, which is the third one. The student who doesn't find a space in the circle will say what he or she knows about the topic. So I had already explained that. And the fourth one says, after he or she says what he or she knows about the topic, he or she will say a sentence that will be written on the whiteboard, which will be using simple past. So right here we can realize that we are introducing the topic to the students. So the next one says, the other student will do the same, but he or she will change the verb because the sentence will have another meaning in order to make it a little bit more interesting. And this will be repeated 4 or 5 times, depending on the time. So the other activity has 10 minutes and the materials are book and pencil. So the vocabulary presentation, its purpose is to make students with the key terms for that topic. The first step says, the students will have to get in pairs. They will open their books and they will go to the page 21. They are going to discuss about the part that is called vocabulary. They will have to match the best association of the words from the left side to the right one. And then some of them will be chosen by the teacher randomly to share their answers. So it's really clear, I guess. I have nothing to explain in this activity because it's clear. So the other activity has a time of 10 minutes and the materials are paper and pencil. Model real life example. Its purpose is to make students relate the topic with the real life. So the students have to know that this topic can be associated to the real life. So I just want to make a parenthesis here the purpose of each activity has been given by me, because I feel that I didn't find a specific information that said that the purpose of each activity was that. So for that reason, I said what I believed. If I'm wrong, I'm so sorry, but I guess that it's like that. I gave a correct purpose. So finish up the parentheses and I'm gonna continue. The first step for this activity is the students are going to be given some pages that contain some short historical events of sports from the whole world. Then they will be able to write their own historical events of their lives, independently if those ones were related to sport or they were not. So it doesn't matter if the students have had a kind of experience with sports. The interest of this activity is to make students to write in simple past about historical events of their lives. For that reason, says in order to make them use the simple past tense. Okay, it's clear. Then 3 students will be chosen depending of the number of the attendants to share their own historical events. So it's clear, I guess. And the other activity, the time is 15 minutes. This has a little bit of more time. So the materials, a ball or any maker, and a CD player or a cell phone. Okay, the ball is going to be in order to pass it one by one, or a maker can be useful too. And a CD player or cell phone are going to be in order to play songs. So the explanation or NCCQ purpose. Okay, right here I forgot to write something about the explanation. I remember that the teacher is going to ask the students if they have understood the topic, and if it isn't like that, the teacher is going to give a brief explanation, because he has to pass to the other activity, which is CCQ. The purpose says to check if the students have understood the topic. Okay, the first step says the students will go at the middle of the classroom and they will play the game called Hot Potato. Yes, that famous game that most of the times we had played, or in most of the semesters. It's really recognizable, but it's interesting. It's always interesting, I meant. The second step, the teacher will play a song, and when that one stops, the student who has the hot potato will answer some simple questions about the topic studied. This will be repeated for a few times. I was gonna say 5 times. No, a few times, because we have to take into consideration that the time is going to say if we have to finish the activity over there or not. Okay, this is the other stage, which is called practice. Okay, the time for the first activity is 10 minutes and the materials is just the board game. So the purpose, students understand what they can do well and what needs to be reinforced. Okay, I remember this hasn't been written by me. I remember that I took this information from the presentation that you gave us. So for that reason, I couldn't read it because these are not my words. But with the explanation of the activity, this is going to be clearer. The teacher will provide a board game to his or her student. They will create groups of 5. They will have to play, but the teacher will be walking around them in order to monitor if they need help. There must be a constant participation of the teacher, because the students need to feel that the teacher can help them. So the students are going to play a board game and they are going to practice, and the teacher is going to be trying to help them whatever necessity they have. The other activity, because of the time, I'm going to be faster. So the time is 10 minutes and the materials, okay, I cannot see. I guess that this activity doesn't have materials. I remember that I got an activity that doesn't have materials. So I guess this is the one that I was mentioning about. So the purpose, to make students use their best creativity. The step, the first one. The students will have to make groups of 4, which will be made depending on the number that the teacher will assign them, in order not to make groups in which just friends are working. We know that's something really necessary. Okay, the other step. The teacher will tell them they will have to use just the simple past for that activity. Each student of the group will make mimics of any action he or she did in the past, and the other members of the group will have to try to guess what he or she did. Each student of the group will have to participate. Okay, this is really clear. This is going to be a game, a kind of game, in order to make it funnier. So, and the students are going to have to try to guess what he or she is trying to tell them, but without saying anything. That's the objective, the principal objective of this activity. And I almost forgot this. No, the principal objective is they use simple past. The other activity, 10 minutes, the materials. This one doesn't have materials neither. So the activity purpose says learners produce language using the target content freely. So in this activity, the students are going to be free to use, are going to have to feel free to use all the creativity they have. The teacher doesn't have to say something, doesn't have to make them do something. So this is the first step. Says the teacher will ask the students use their creativity, I was saying that, to speak about something they never did in their previous years of their existence. Why the teacher in this case is going to ask for them say something that they never did? Because they have to use the negative way too. So they are going to feel free to talk about what they want. So as I was saying, they have to feel free to talk about it, to talk about what they want. The teacher will be the facilitator just if the student asks for help to him or her. Then at the end of the time for that activity, some students will share the things they never did when they were younger. For example, I never kissed my grandmother. Okay, this can be explained just if the grandmother already passed away, sadly, because that's something that will never happen in the present or even in the future. Or, I didn't go to the church yesterday. We know that we cannot come back over the time. So, yesterday, will never be lived again. So, that's something that will never happen again. And because of the time, the production, this is the last stage. 15 minutes and materials. It doesn't have materials, I mean. So, the objective or the purpose of the activity is to communicate using productive skills. We know productive skills are speaking and writing. So the students will make trios. They will talk about the different and most amazing things they did when they were children, and they will have to do it properly, because at the end some students will be choosing to say or share their childhood experiences. So in this activity, I'm gonna say it quickly. The students are going to use the simple past, and this is going to be made in trios because they feel more comfortable.